Looking for history books that will go beyond the lists of events and dates and quietly but powerfully nestle deep within your students' hearts and help change the world for good? That's a tall order, but I think the books that I'm sharing today can do that. Here are our favorite titles for middle school students who want more from their study of modern history. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. It's important for middle school students to read the history of modern times. Now that may sound odd. Isn't my student living in modern times? Well, yes, but this era that we call modern began more than 100 years before your students were born. And there's a lot of rich history that can plant seeds of good and noble ideas in your students' hearts if you use the right kind of books. Textbooks rarely plant seeds of ideas. They're usually focused on just the facts. But living books, books that tell the stories of people in an engaging way, that fires your students' imaginations and touches their emotions, that kind of book will make any period of history come alive. And that's the kind of book that we use in the Simply Charlotte Mason history curriculum, A Pageant of History. Today, I want to share with you the living history books that we recommend for middle school students studying modern times. These books are selected because of their powerful writing, their readability, and their noble, thought-provoking, discussion-prompting ideas. As your students read these books on their own, be available to help them unpack the ideas that struck them. The Middle School Student Narration Guidebook that's part of our curriculum will be a helpful companion in this important learning process. The guidebook will give your students each lesson's reading assignment, narration prompts to help them think through what they just read, and lists of key words to provide the correct spellings for written narrations. There's even space in the book for those written narrations, so your students will have everything they need all in one place. Now, let's take a look at the books they will be reading. Across 5 Aprils by Irene Hunt. This is the story of the Civil War told from a home front in Illinois. Jethro is 9 years old when the war begins, and during the 5 Aprils of the Civil War, he struggles to understand it all and how it affects him as he grows into a young man. The book is historical fiction, but researched through letters and family records and based on the stories that the author's grandfather told of those 5 years. The discussions and debates woven throughout the narrative offer your student a glimpse of the many points of view and conflicting ideas that fueled the war. But they're explained so Jethro and your student can understand and begin to think through them for himself. Louis Pasteur, Founder of Modern Medicine, by John Hudson Tyner. Now, this is a great biography of a French scientist and his relentless search for truth. As your students read about Pasteur's life, they'll be struck by how hard Pasteur worked to find the answers to his questions. He was not looking for popularity. His was a search for proof. And as he proved other scientists' discoveries wrong, and they attacked Pasteur, he did not fight back. He merely held public demonstrations so people could judge for themselves whether what he proposed was true. There are many great character lessons unfolded in this biography, along with the fascinating story of a scientist's life. Now, this title is part of the Sower series, so it emphasizes the Christian beliefs of Pasteur throughout the narrative. We also have The Singing Tree by Kate Sarady, an award-winning story of life on the home front for a Hungarian family during World War I. This book will strike a chord with your students. The first part helps the reader enter into everyday life on the farm, along with the main characters' ties to the family and their hopes and their dreams for the future. All seems normal until the father is called up to fight with his countrymen, and life changes for those left behind. The main characters must grow up all the sooner in order to take care of the farm and all the relatives, and they also face added responsibilities of caring for Russian soldiers and German war orphans who take refuge on their farm. The reader is powerfully drawn into the everyday reality of how war changes life for everybody, not just those who fight in the battles. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. For students and possibly parents who weren't born until after the Civil Rights Movement, this book may be an eye-opener. It's a historical fiction of just 1 year in the life of a Black family living in Mississippi during the Depression. Experiencing through this living book the prejudice and discrimination that was shown against fellow human beings based only on the color of their skin will give your students a deeper understanding and sympathy toward people of all ethnicities. Learning someone's story can be a powerful thing, and this story is written not with bitterness or hatred, but with strength, dignity, and respect. It's a compelling book that lays the foundation for studying the civil rights movement and the importance of noticing character, not skin color. We also have A Night Divided by Jennifer A. Nielsen. Now, we know the story of the Berlin Wall, but this book brings that time in history alive. The wall was erected in one night and later expanded and strengthened, but many families were separated during that one night. This is the story of 12-year-old Goethe, who was left at home with her mother and brother on the eastern side, the side controlled by the Soviets, while her father and middle brother, who had gone west in search of work, are now unable to return home. One day, Goethe spots her father on a viewing platform across the wall, and he's doing a peculiar dance. Well, she concludes that her father wants them to tunnel beneath the wall to freedom. So begins a multidimensional adventure of suspense and intrigue and danger, suitable for middle school students, yet bringing a powerful lesson from history to life. Photographs and a timeline of the Berlin Wall are included in the back. We also have Resolve, The Church That Endures Onward by Luke H. Davis. Now, we have a church history stream running throughout our history curriculum for the middle school students, and that uses the book series by Luke Davis. Resolve is the title that covers the years 1880 to 2018. The author points out in the introduction, the church began in the midst of great trials and persecution. In the Middle Ages, it grew to a larger force in society. Then it fractured and had to build itself, and then expanded further around the world, and now we seem to be living in an age that is more secular and, in some cases, hostile to the gospel of Jesus Christ. We have come full circle. What was old is new again. But Jesus has always called his followers to endure hardship, and that endurance is illustrated by the stories in this book. Let me read this paragraph from the introduction that will give you an idea of the stories included. Sammy Morris endured hardship in Africa before encountering Jesus and seeking an opportunity to train as a missionary to return to Liberia. B.B. Warfield was a faithful professor who dutifully and lovingly cared for his wife, who was an invalid. C.S. Lewis was a profound Christian thinker who had to battle against the secularization of British society and later endured the death of his wife, Joy, from cancer. Francis Grimke endured the racism of American society. Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Corrie ten Boom stared down the savage evil of the Nazis in the Second World War. Etta Linneman and J.I. Packer had to confront a devaluing of Scripture from professing Christians in their own contexts, and Benjamin Quashie and his family barely escaped with their lives, as they are ongoing targets of Islamic terror and violence. The church endures forward, but by God's grace, it does endure. As with the other books in the series, there are narratives, commentaries, illustrations, timelines, and maps, all included. Last, we have A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. This book is based on a true story, and it actually has two storylines running in parallel. The novel reveals the stories of two children in Sudan. One walks 8 hours every day to fetch water from a pond for her family. The other walks away from his war-torn village and across Africa, searching for his family and for safety. Those two different story threads that intersect at the end are printed in different type and different colors, so your students should have no problem recognizing which thread they're reading. Know that there are some difficult events told in these stories, but they're not sensationalized. They just have heavy feelings that the main characters experience because of these troubling events that are related. So be ready to discuss those experiences and feelings. I think this book can plant powerful seeds of ideas for good in your students' hearts. In fact, all of these books can do that. And isn't that the goal as we educate our students? The facts are included, but they are wrapped in those powerful living ideas that will nestle deep into our students' hearts and shape who they are becoming. That's history the Charlotte Mason way. Next time, I'll share books like this for high school students who are studying modern times. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you then.